Some saints are canonized with trumpets and miracles. Others are buried beneath stone, their names chiseled away, remembered only by the sins they never confessed. This is not the story of salvation. This is the afterbirth of belief. You will awaken without breath, without memory, in a tomb no pilgrim visits. You will find your hands folded not in prayer, but in silence. And you will hear it first faint, then louder the sound of your own voice, fractured into dozens of tongues, each one screaming a name you were never meant to forget. You are the saint they buried in haste, the one who never truly died, the one whose halo still flickers in the dust like a lie left unfinished. This is not horror, this is not penance, this is recollection. You will walk through the ashes of your miracles and learn what they truly cost. You will meet the mouths you once fed, the eyes you once opened, the souls you once cleansed, and they will not thank you. They will remember, and every step you take deeper into this forgotten world will peel back another miracle, until nothing remains but truth and teeth. If you choose to read, do not expect redemption. Only a voice that would not stay buried, only a name still echoing from under the stonias. The tomb that refuses silence. You wake not to light, but to pressure, the kind that lives in the bones of sealed cathedrals, where prayers rot before they rise. Your mouth is full of dust. Your hands are folded across your chest, fingers rigid, unfamiliar. Stone presses against your back, your shoulders, the curve of your skull. A tomb, not a grave. A grave forgets you. A tomb remembers. And this one breathes, faint, shallow, like something trying not to be heard. You are not cold. You are not warm. You are waiting. Your name, if you still have one, echoes just beyond reach. You try to move, but your arms respond like roots rather than limbs, grown into the shape of stillness. And then you hear it, a sound, not from outside, from within. A whisper too loud to be imagined, curling like incense through your ribs. You are not forgiven. You do not remember asking. You do not remember what you are meant to be forgiven for. But the voice continues, now in a dozen tongues. Some, most of you don't. We remember. We remember. The lid of the sarcophagus cracks, not by force, by shame. Light leaks in, not divine, but fungal, a bioluminescence born from rot. It outlines carvings inside your coffin, symbols of sainthood, of martyrdom, of lies. You rise not by will, but because the tomb has rejected you, the stone beneath your backsides as you leave it. Dust clings to your skin like guilt too old to speak aloud. You stand up. Your robes are tattered, but the embroidered cross across your chest glows faintly. It is not yours. You never earned it. The tomb is circular, ribbed like the inside of a lung. Bones line the walls, but not neatly. They are clawed, shattered, gnawed. A monastery above you must have once stood, now buried, collapsed, reduced to pressure and silence. You step forward. The floor echoes, not with your weight, but with names. Each step pulls a memory from the ground, a half-spoken prayer, a cry left unfinished. He walks. The tomb seems to whisper. He walks again. You find a mirror, old, fogged, nailed to the far end of the chamber. The frame is made of jawbones. You approach it, expecting to see your face. You don't. Instead, it shows a congregation, hundreds kneeling, eyes closed, mouths sewn shut. At the center, you, cloaked in gold, arms raised in benediction. The reflection smiles. You do not. A single candle burns below the mirror. The flame is inverted, dancing downward, feeding off air that should not exist. You reach out. The mirror shatters, not by touch, but by recognition. You fall to your knees. The dust welcomes you like a lover who waited too long. The voices return. Do you remember the girl with a broken tongue? They ask. Do you remember the baptism that drowned more than sin? Do you remember the man who begged not to be healed? It's not fully, but the weight of forgetting bruises your lungs. And then movement, not yours. From the walls, a ribcage shifts. A skull falls. The bones assemble themselves, forming the outline of a mana priest, perhaps missing his mouth. Where there should be speech, there is only parchment, nailed to his jaw with rusted pins. He bows. You know this ritual. He is waiting for you to read. You peel one parchment loose. The letters writhe as you scan them. It is a prayer. One, you wrote. A prayer for the silencing of heresies. You remember the ink. You remember your hand shaking. You remember the silence that followed, too complete to be holy. The priest nods. Another bone drops. Another scroll revealed. You begin to understand. This tomb is not your prison. It is your archive. Every silence you enforced, every miracle bought with fear, every truth you buried has left a record, and they are speaking now. You look down at your hands, bloodless, unwrinkled, as if no time has passed, as if death was not allowed to touch you. On the wall behind you, a symbol glows faintly, a spiral. You do not remember drawing it, but it pulses in time with your breath. A door opens, not a door exactly, an opening, a breach, a wound in the stone. You step through, and the tomb closes behind you. No sound, no farewell. You are not welcome here. I had a hallway carved in hexagonal bones, Dim light drips from cracks in the ceiling. In the distance, a bell tolls, not in celebration, in warning you are awake. But the sins are not asleep, not anymore. The miracle of the withered garden, you walk through the bone corridor with no sense of direction, only instinct and the slow burn of something awakening in your sternum, a light, not holy, but remembering. The tolling bell has faded, yet its echo lingers in your bones. After a time you cannot measure, the passage opens into a courtyard overgrown with thorns that glisten as if slick with memory. You know this place, not from maps but from myth. They called it the Garden of the Last Blossom, the site of your first public miracle. The story still floats in the air like incense. A garden long dead, soil salted by generations of plague, made to bloom in a single night by your breath alone. Roses, lilies, herbs, fragrant enough to lull grief. It became legend, pilgrimage, but what you see now is no garden, it is a grave, a pit masquerading as paradise. You step forward, and the ground crunches not with leaves, but bones. Tiny bones, children dozens, no tombstones, only remnants of cloth, charred ribbons, crumbled rosaries. You kneel and lift a fragment. It bears your seal, a petal-shaped insignia embroidered into the dead. Why did the flowers bloom, Saint? The wind asks, not cruelly, but curiously. You say nothing. You walk deeper into the center of the pit, where a fountain once stood. It now sputters with black water, thick and viscous, bubbling as if ashamed of its reflection. You remember placing your hand there long ago, declaring it blessed, but now your fingers hesitate. You touch the water. It recoils, shrinks back into the stone. From behind you, a vine snaps, not break snaps, a sound like muscle tearing. A scarecrow stands among the thorns, dressed in your old vest. Its face is your own, sewn from parchment, eyes stitched shut with red thread. Around its neck, a garland of dried blossoms. The figure leans toward you without moving. It whispers without a mouth. We did not bloom, we screamed. The air smells of lavender and rot. The flowers you once conjured were never flowers. They were masks, illusions grown over sacrifice, children buried for purity. You remember the ceremony now hazily, a ritual to clear the land of sin, a tradition predating the church. You kept it alive. You called it a blessing. The crowd had cheered. The priests had wept with joy. And under the soil, dozens had suffocated in silence. You stumble back. The scarecrow lifts a hand, revealing a trowel, rusted, bent. It places it at your feet. You are meant to dig. You don't want to. You kneel. The ground gives to easily, like flesh. With each motion, your hands blacken. Not from dirt, from truth. You strike wood. A box. Small. Child-sized. You open it. Inside, a dull ice plucked, mouth sewn shut, and tucked beneath it, a letter in your handwriting. You unfold it. It reads, "For the garden to bloom, silence must be rooted." You do not remember writing it, but the ink matches your hand. The scarecrow crumbles, no wind, no drama. It simply collapses, as if dismissed. In its place stands a child, thin, eyeless, still breathing. She does not cry. She does not speak. She takes the trowel and begins to dig beside you. Together, you uncover 3 more boxes, and in each, a relic, a bone with scripture carved into it, a medallion bearing your name, a tongue pressed in wax. The girl hands you the tongue. You hesitate. She presses it to your chest. It melts. It enters. You scream, not from pain, from memory. You remember the prayers they whispered as they buried them. You remember the smell of burning honey. You remember your voice chanting the final line. Let the roots bind the silence. You fall back. The garden shifts. The thorns bloom, but this time you see them as they are. Not flowers, but mouths. Dozens. Open. Screaming. The petals are tongues. The stems are chords. The fragrance is decay. You run, not from fear, from knowing. As you leave, the child does not follow. She watches. Her sewn mouth smiles. At the edge of the garden, a gate appears, carved in the shape of an inverted cross, its frame etched with your sermons. You step through. On the other side, silence, the true kind, the kind that does not absolve, the kind that remembers. The hourglass in your chest shifts. The sand now glows. A name burns behind your teeth. You do not speak it. Not yet. The path ahead is made of parchment. Each step wrinkles a forgotten verse. The garden is behind you, but its roots are not done. Not yet. The girl who spoke in your tongue. You step onto the parchment path, and each fold beneath your feet groans like old skin. The ink from forgotten sermons smears beneath your heels, curling into shapes that resemble tongues, some human, some not. The air here is neither warm nor cold. It is listening. And with each breath you take, the world seems to lean closer, as if eager to see if you will finally speak a name. But your mouth stays closed, not from fear, from shame. The path leads into a chamber carved from salt. Walls glisten. Crystals jut like ribs of a dead god's chest. In the center stands a pulpit made from vertebrae, spiraling upward like a question left unanswered. And upon it a girl, no older than 10, barefoot, head bowed. Her lips do not move, but your voice echoes from her chest. Not similar, identical, word for word. The tone, the cadence, the timbre, every syllable is yours spoken without your breath. She recites your old sermons, the ones you gave before the council canonized your name. Fear is the garden of obedience, she says. Bend the spine, and the soul will follow. Her eyes rise. They are not hers, they are yours, down to the speck of golden ash in the left iris. You want to run, but your legs root to the salt. You whisper, "Who are you?" She answers with your tongue. "I am the echo that survived." The chamber darkens, not dimly but surgically, as if each shadow is choosing a part of your memory to erase. "They said you healed me," she continues. "They said I was mute, cursed, that your blessing gave me voice." You remember the miracle, a child, born without speech, suddenly delivering a flawless litany in your honor. The crowd wept. The banners flew. The canonization began. "But I was never mute," she says. "You just didn't want to hear me." The pulpit dissolves. Salt crumbles. She floats above the ground now, arms spread, a halo of paper burning behind her. "You silenced me," she says. "You made me speak. She begins to convulse, not in pain, but in distortion. Your face melts from hers. The voice becomes layered now too, or wrong. She becomes a choir of falsehoods, each one louder than the last. "Confess," they chant. "Confess." You fall to your knees, but no confession comes. The hourglass in your chest churns violently. The sand begins to drip upward. You gasp, and with the gasp a scream escapes her scream. The sound shakes the salt walls. Cracks spire outward. One by one, the mirrored eyes of children open within the crystal, each one a posture claimed to save. The girl descends. Her hair unfurls like scripture set on fire. She presses her hand to your chest. The hourglass bursts not with glass, but with song. A melody of everything you refuse to listen to. A symphony of discarded truths. You cry. She does not. She opens her mouth one last time, and your name pours out. Not shouted, erased. You blink. She is gone. Only salt remains, and a single note carved into the floor. A saint who cannot hear should not speak. You rise. Your voice is gone. Not metaphorically. It has left you. The girl took it, or perhaps it was never yours. The path ahead reforms. This time paved in teeth. You do not question it. You walk. Each step feels like a sermon unsaid. The salt fades behind you, but her echo does not. It follows, waiting. The blind who saw too much, the path of teeth leads downward, spiraling like a jaw descending into its own hunger. Each molar etched with scripture, each canine cracked as if it once bit through truth, too raw to chew. Your feet bleed now, not from pain, but from memory, every wound echoing a time you stepped over someone you were meant to raise. The air thickens, not with fog, but with vision. You feel eyes pressing against your spine, not watching, imposing, and then you reach the chamber. Circular, vaulted, a single throne at its center carved from unpolished obsidian. Upon it a figure robed in bandages sits still, his face wrapped tightly, yet from the gap seeps light, blinding, pulsing, alive. "You remember me," he says. His voice is not scornful. It is tired. "I was blind when you found me. I begged to stay that way. You remember him, Brother L, the monk who scrubbed floors with grace, who listened more than he ever preached. You gave him sight in front of a crowd of nobles, your first miracle before royalty, a performance of piety. And what did I see, saint?" he asks, rising. "Not the heavens, not the choir, not the lamb. I saw you." His bandaged hand reaches into the dark and pulls forth a basin filled with water. At first glance, it appears normal, but when you peer into it, you see not your face, but his memory. The moment you touched his forehead, the moment his world bloomed in color and horror, he saw beneath your skin, not flesh, not bone, but worms of gold, squirming with every unspoken intention. "They said I was healed," he says, removing one bandage. His eye is a mirror. It reflects not you, but your deeds. "But the truth is I was cursed with vision meant only for angels and demons." He steps closer. "I gouged out my eyes a week later, not from fear, from mercy." Around the chamber, statues line the walls, blindfolded saints, every one bearing your likeness, their faces cracked, their mouths sewn. "You gave me sight so you would be seen," he said. "But some truths should not be looked upon. Some halos burn. The water in the basin begins to boil, not with heat. With names you see them, all the ones who followed you, all the ones who believed, and then vanished." He holds your gaze. "I asked you once if suffering was divine. You told me yes. That pain was proof of devotion." He removes the second bandage. "That eye is empty, black, still bleeding. Then take my suffering, saint. Let it be yours again." He places both hands on your face. Light pours into you, not warmth, not clarity, but revelation. You see what he saw. You see the altar you built on bones. You see the mothers who watched their sons sacrificed in your name. You see your hands raised, not in blessing, but in orchestration. And worst of all, you see yourself smiling. The vision ends. You fall. He kneels beside you. Sight without humility is just ambition, wearing robes. He whispers, and you were always ambitious. He reaches into his robes and removes a small jar. Inside his eyes, preserved still weeping. Now you bear them, you refuse. He forces the jar into your hands. It does not feel heavy, it feels justified. The chamber begins to collapse. Statues scream. Salt pours from the cracks. Elric sits back on his throne and begins to chant, not in Latin. In memory, each word is a moment you buried, each verse a promise you never kept. As the ceiling caves, the basin explodes, showering the room with reflection. You run, the jar clenched in your hand. Behind you, Elric's voice rises one last time. Blindness was never the curse. Seeing you was... You flee into the corridor. The jar hums, the teeth close behind you. Ahead, a spiral staircase made of hymnals, each step a song rewritten. At its base, another door, carved with your name but backwards, as if time itself regrets it. You breathe, the sand in your chest still flows upward. The hourglass is near its end. You are not yet. The bells that never rang again, the staircase groans beneath your feet as if each hymnal you step on cries out for the meaning it lost. Some crumble, some hum. All of them remember. You descend not into shadow, but into vibration. A low hum, steady, growing, as if the bones of the world are beginning to resonate again after centuries of forced silence. At the bottom, an archway. Beyond it, a bell tower. You recognize it. It was the first you consecrated. The highest point of the first cathedral bearing your name. The bells were once said to ring miracles. Weddings rang with light, funerals with release. But after your ascension, they fell silent. No matter who pulled the rope, no matter how many prayers, not even storms could move them, they became relics. Dead things. Untouchable, but now something moves within. The tower leans forward, impossibly curved, like a throat about to sing. You step inside. Dust spins in the air like notes not yet struck. Chains hang from above, each one thick as a wrist, rusted but breathing. The stairs upward are broken. You climb anyway. You bleed the wood splinters. Each step groans in Latin, half-phrases, sermons swallowed mid-breath. And then you reach the top. 5 bells, each one etched with your initials, each one cracked, and beneath them, pews, as if someone built a chapel within the bell tower. Someone who expected to listen. You are not alone. A figure kneels in prayer, robed, silent. The ropes of the bells are looped through its limbs. It is not worshipping. It is the mechanism. You approach. Its back splits open like wings. Dozens of tiny mouths whisper your sermons in reverse. Speak, the figure rasps. You do not. Speak. It repeats. A bell shudders. You take a step forward. The air thick. Incense laced with ash and oil curls around you. You reach for the rope of the central bell, the one bound to your first vow. You pull. Nothing. The figure laughs. A sound like glass being ground to dust. You do not pull confessions. It says, you surrender them. One by one, the other ropes move. Not by your hand. The figure dances, its body convulsing in time with unseen forces. The bells ring, not sweet, not divine, but like screams hammered into metal. Each tone releases a memory. A woman throwing herself from the nav after your sermon on purity. A man who buried his child beneath the altar to ensure a cure you promised. A village that burned itself clean after you declared it unworthy. The sounds are not echoes. They are present. You hear their breath. You hear their bones shift. The bells do not stop. You scream, but the bells are louder. You collapse. The floor ripples. It becomes water, thick, black, reflective. You see the figure kneeling again. Only now it wears your face. You are the mechanism. The ropes run through your own ribs. You are wringing yourself. Every lie, every omission, every sermon tailored to AW, not truth. The figure turns. Speak, it says. This time you do. One word. One name. The first child you ever anointed. The one who never woke up. The bells stop. The figure collapses. Its mouth melts into the floor. The ropes fall slack. You are alone again, but not silent. Beneath your skin, something pulses. The bells have nested inside your veins. You feel them ready waiting. You descend the tower. This time the stairs do not break. They carry you softly, as if in penance. At the base, a mirror hangs, shaped like a bell. Inside it, your face but. Each eye is now shaped like a clapper. You blink. The world shakes. The bells have returned, not to summon, not to celebrate, but to testify. You leave the tower. Behind you it collapses, into itself, not as ruin, as confession sealed. The path ahead unfolds, over a chasm of silence. Below echoes swirl like smoke. Your weight no longer feels holy, only heard. The bread that fed no one, the bridge of tongues bends beneath your weight. each step pressing syllables into the air that never belonged to you. Some of them scream, some laugh, some simply fall silent as you pass. Below, the chasm churns not with wind, but with forgotten prayers, swirling into eddies of unfulfilled salvation. When you reach the other side, you arrive at a field of wheat dead, gray, unmoving. The stalks are petrified midsway as if frozen by a wind that never left. You know this place. You once called it a miracle, the village of Venerin where a famine had struck for 7 years straight. You arrived with nothing but a pouch of flour and a blessing on your lips. And yet, bread appeared. Loaves rising from empty ovens, crusts steaming in barns long abandoned. A field that had refused to grow for a generation suddenly bloomed overnight, its wheat golden and full. You wrote it into your own the feeding of the faithful. But now, the truth rises from the soil like dust stirred by guilt. The village is gone, burned to ash. Not a soul remains, only charred foundations and blackened bones, all curled as if they had died mid-bite. You step into the field. The petrified wheat does not move, but listens. Each stalk bears your seal, etched into the husk as if branded. You kneel and pull one from the ground. It bleeds flour, not soil, not sap, flour still warm. A single crow lands beside you. Its eyes are sewn shut. Its beak opens and speaks with a child-esque voice. We ate because we were starving. We died because you were not. You remember now, the flour wasn't divine. It was stolen, confiscated from nearby monasteries under the decree of spiritual necessity. You had taken the church's stores, rerouted them here, and called it God's grace. The miracles were logistics, the bread was politics, and the cost was silence. You walk deeper into the village ruins. At the center stands the church you helped raise, timber now blackened, stained glass melted into colorful tears. Inside, pews are replaced with troughs, not for livestock, for people. You see the bones kneeling, mouths open, waiting. At the altar, a giant loaf still rests, unmolded, undecayed. You tear a piece in sight. Teeth, human, baby teeth, embedded like seeds. The loaf pulses. You drop it to moan rises from beneath the altar. You lift the cloth. There, bound in chains of rosemary and salt, is the baker, or what remains of her. Her body is flour white, her skin cracked like old parchment. Her eyes rise to meet yours. They said you blessed the ovens, she rasps. They didn't know it was my hands bleeding into every loaf. You stagger back. They were starving, she whispers, so I gave them myself. You called it a miracle, I called it goodbye. Her chains fall away, not broken. Relicia stands, tall despite the hollowness in her frame. Her arms unfold like bread left to rise to long stretching, splitting, steaming. You never made bread, she says. You made hunger look divine. She steps toward you. Crumbs fall from her jaw. Duet clinging, you sink, you scream. The field swallows you whole. Not to kill, to bake. You feel heat rise around you. The hourglass in your chest ticks wildly. Sand floods your throat. The walls of wheat bend inward. And then you emerge from the oven of the earth, gasping, covered in flour and ash. The baker's gone. In her place, a trail of crumbs, leading away from the ruins. You follow, they glow faintly, each one whispering a name. Not of saints, of the forgotten, the villagers who vanished, the children who never grew full. At the end of the trail, a wooden spoon is planted upright in the dirt. It bears your name, carved too deeply, as if the wood had tried to reject it. You kneel and grasp it. It burns your hand. You keep holding. You rise. Behind you, the wheat collapses into itself, turned to powder. Ahead, the path opens again, this time made not of tongues or hymnals but bones arranged as dinner tables. You walk between them. You do not hunger, not anymore. Only the bells inside your veins ring dull low, waiting for the next course of confession. The choir that sang in reverse, the bone tables stretch out like pews waiting for a congregation that never arrives. You walk between them. Each femur hums, each rib creaks a note. Together, they form a silence more sacred than any sermon you ever preached. At the end of the corridor stands a door, not made of wood or iron but of tongues. Dozens sewn together, twisting with breath. You do not knock. It opens. Beyond it lies a cathedral made of mouths. Every wall is lips, every spire teeth. The air quivers with breath. You are not alone. A choir waits. Hundreds of children robed in grey eyeless, mouthless stand in rows that spiral toward the altar. Above them hangs a pulpit of glass, and within it floats your own voice encased like relic. It turns toward you as if sensing its source. You step into the center. The floor responds. It becomes a staff, not a path, but sheet music. And upon each line, the steps of your journey, each miracle, each mistake. Sing, says a voice. You look up. The conductor descends. She is faceless. Her hands are flayed open like lilies, each finger a quill still dripping ink. They've waited, she says. They've remembered. With a wave of her hand, the choir opens their mouths. No tongues, just echo chambers. The sound that emerges is not harmony, it is testimony. They do not sing him. They sing everything you denied. Backward, a backwards Magnificat, a dirge made from twisted Latin and choking breath. You hear it, the prayer you taught a woman to whisper before she lit herself ablaze, the vow you forced from a boy so he could serve as altar and nothing more, the benediction you gave at a trial where truth had already been sentenced. Each note a confession, but none are yours, not yet. The glass pulpit pulses. Your voice still traps screams to be freed. The conductor nods. You built the choir, she says. You chose the silence. One by one the children turn to face you. And now you see, their mouths are shaped like yours. Everyone, each not your tone, your inflection, but none of them carry your meaning. They are all perversions of your gospel, born of repetition without compassion. You fall to your knees. You try to block your ears, but your hands pass through your own skull. You cannot stop the sound. You made it. The conductor walks to you. The final hymn, she whispers yours. She opens a hymn. The pages are blank, but they begin to bleed as she reads your blood. Each word she speaks carves itself into the stone beneath you. Your name fractures. Your tittle saint melts into ash. The children begin the final verse. It is a lullaby. You recognize it. You once sang it to a dying child and told the world he was healed, but he had only slept. Forever. The choir reaches its peak. The glass pulpit cracks. Your voice wails. The pitch bends reality. The mouths on the walls shriek. The cathedral begins to collapse. The conductor kneels beside you. You wanted them to sing, she says. You forgot they would remember. She hands you a candle. The wick is made of hair. Yours the wax, fat, rendered from old oaths. You light it. The cathedral freezes. The choir vanishes. Not gone remembered. Their voices now rest in the flame. The conductor fades. Only the candle remains. You rise. You carry it. You leave the cathedral. Behind you, the tongues on the door melt. At your feet, the path reforms. This time it is parchment scored with staff lines, but empty of notes. You walk. The candle in your hand hums. Each flicker whispers a name you tried to forget, but now they guide you toward what? Not redemption, but a reckoning sung in full. The baptism that never dried. The parchment path curls toward a basin carved from a single block of forgotten stone. The candle in your hand gutters, the flame hissing as if in dread. Before you, the ground splits into concentric pools, one rippling without wind, without touch. You remember this place. The valley of stone water, where no river flowed, no well gave drink until you came. You struck the rock, not once, but thrice. And from its wounds, water flowed, cold, clear, and seemingly eternal. A new font for baptism, you said. Children were brought from leagues away. Priests knelt in envy. It was written in canon, and from the hand of the blessed the rock wept mercy. But now you see it. The pools are full, but not of water. They shimmer with memory, thick, viscous, silver gray and unclean. The scent is sharper and in lavender. You kneel. A ripple forms without your touch. A face emerges. A baby, eyes wide, mouth open, then another, then dozens. The pool fills with the faces of every child you baptized here. But they do not smile. They do not blink. Their mouths gape, not in awe. In drowning you recoil. The flame in your hand flickers blue. From across the water, a figure rises, draped in soaked robes, skin bloated, eyes milk. She once served as the matron of baptisms. Sister Dallin, you remember her. Gentle, silent, always watching. She steps forward. Her feet leave no ripples. Do you remember the day you poured too much? She asks. Her voice bubbles, as if spoken through a throat half filled. The day the child slipped beneath. You do. A baby slipped through your hands. Sank. You told the mother it was the will of the Lord, that he had been chosen early. You wrote the death as a sanctification. You did not mention that the water had pulled him down, that the rock had not bled mercy but hunger. Dallin reaches you. She touches your face. Her fingers are freezing. You told me to keep baptizing, she says. You said doubt was the true sin. You noticed the marks on her wrists, countless scratches, as if she tried to climb out of something. I tried to stop, she whispers, but they kept bringing more. You glance into the nearest pool. The baby faces begin to move. Not real, but memories are reenacting the moment of immersion, and then the stillness. Water's not holy, Dallin says. It is memory, and you fed it too many. The pools begin to overflow, not spill. Weep. The silver liquid spreads across the stone, crawling toward you. You back away. The candle trembles. The wick shrinks. Dallin places her hand on your chest. The hourglass inside you cracks. Sand leaks upward, choking your breath. Confess, she says. Speak the names. You try, but your tongue is swollen. The pools rise. Now up to your knees. They pulse with heartbeat. Dallin kneels beside you. I died here, she says, but I never left. Her body melts into the water. Her robes flatten. Her voice continues. Baptism without burden is only drowning. The water climbs. Your mouth fills, you scream, but the sound bubbles. The candle falls. It does not extinguish. It floats, a single point of fire above the gray tide. You reach for it, but the water pulls harder. 1,000 arms grip your ankles. Tiny desperates not to drag you down, but to be remembered. The children, the drowned, the forgotten, they are not angry. Only lost. You open your mouth. The water enters, but so do the names. You speak them, one by one, each a child, each a death. The water recedes, not entirely, but enough. The pools.com. The faces fade, not erased, dust. Heard the hourglass seals. The sand flows again. For now, you rise. The candle returns to your hand. Its flame steady. The path reforms, narrow, winding. Ahead a door of salt, carved with one word, absolution. You do not answer. You step forward. Behind you, the pools ripple once, and go still. The pilgrims who have never arrived. The salt door dissolves as you pass through, crumbling into a fine mist that stings your eyes but not your skin. The candle flickers in your hand. Its flame turns violet. The path beyond is no longer stone or parchment or bone. It is ash-thick, uneven. It clings to your soles and sighs with each step. You kneel, scoop a handful. Mixed in the gray powder are flakes of fabric, beads from a rosary, a child's carved toy hut. This is not ash from fire. This is waiting. The wind changes, carries a scent. Dried blood, unwashed devotion, and something else, hope. The candle dims. You continue walking. The world around you opens into a plain of broken wagons, crushed shoes, cloaks hardened by time, signs carved with your name in every dialect. Some spelled wrong. All desperate. You are standing in the valley of the last pilgrimage. You never knew it existed, but they did. They came from across kingdoms, from famine and frost and war, carrying sick children, carrying relics, carrying questions. You had become the answer. But you were never there. You were canonized, enshrined, hidden behind marble and incense. You never saw the path they walked, until now. The plain is quiet, and then you hear footsteps, dozens, hundreds, but no one is there. Only shadows burned into the ground, each shaped as if they arrived, just in time to vanish. You step over them. One of the shadows still holds something. A bundle. You kneel. It's a shawl, wrapped around charred bones the size of an infant. Beneath it a letter, never delivered. The ink preserved by desperation. You read it. Is addressed to you. Blessed one, we are coming. My son coughs blood, but he believes in your light. I do not, but I walk anyway, because he smiles when I say your name. You cannot finish it. You fold the letter, place it in your robe. It burns. You let it. The wind begins to speak. It moans with breath that once prayed. You look up. A procession forms. Transparent figures, pilgrims, wives, monks, children, soldiers, all faceless, all walking toward you slowly. Without feet. The candle trembles. Do you remember us? They ask in unison. You whisper, I never met you. The nearest ghost steps forward. But we died trying. Another voice. We told stories of your touch. Another. We sold our lives for a chance to see your eyes. One by one, they surround you. Not accusing, not pleading, only waiting. You fall to your knees. I wasn't there, you say. I didn't know. The wind stops. A child ghost approaches, offers you a flower. It's made of paper, folded, stained. I made this for you, he says. Before I stopped breathing, you take it. It is weightless, but it crushes your spine. Sing us home. The pilgrims whisper. No more silence. You rise. The candle lifts on its own. The flame becomes a wick of memory. You open your mouth. You sing. Not hymns, names, not blessings, regrets. You sing of paths that never reach sanctuary, of ankles broken in snow, of children buried in shallow graves beneath trees carved with your name. The ghosts listen. They begin to dissolve, not vanish but rest. One by one they bow. The child tucks the paper flower into your robe. Don't forget, again, he says. You nod. The plane begins to shake. Not from anger, from release. The ash lifts, spirals upward. You are alone, but not. Your robe carries their warmth now. The candle is brighter. The path reforms this time, a bridge of prayers once unanswered. You walk. Behind you, the ash swirls into a song. Ahead, a cathedral made of bones turned inward, as if ashamed to form a cross. The cross that refused to rise. The bridge of unanswered prayers cracks with each step, not from your weight, but from their echoes finally reaching somewhere. You cross in silence. The paper flower still tucked against your chest, its weight whispering louder than bells. Ahead, the cathedral looms, not built upward, but downward, sinking into the earth, its spires inverted like fangs. The door is not a threshold, it is a wound. Torn open, bleeding scripture down its sides, ink running like old blood. You enter. It is cold, not from lack of heat, but from refusal. The walls hum, rejecting your presence. You are not welcome here. You built this place, or tried to. This was where you ordered a great cross to be raised, forged from iron, gifted by kings, meant to pierce the sky and bear your name in gold leaf. It was to be your eternal mark, an axis mundi of salvation. But the earth did not want it. The ground cracked. The foundation failed. The cross tilted, fell, killed 3 workers. The rest fled. The site was abandoned. You called it cursed, moved on. But now you see it was not cursed, it was honest. The cathedral leads you down a spiral nav. The air thickens with rust and regret. Stained glass windows show scenes, not of saints, but of collapse. Cathedrals breaking, faces looking upward, not in awe, but in question. At the center lies the cross, still collapsed, half buried, its arms bent, its base twisted as if it had tried to stand and changed its mind. You approach it, not metal, bone. The cross is breathing slowly, painfully. You kneel. Place your hand on the base. It's warm, wet. It is not forged metal. It is spine, rib, a crucifix of anatomy. It remembers. Your hand trembles. The cross shifts. A face appears where the beams meet. Not divine, yours, hollow-eyed, mouth sewn. It speaks in breath. You raised me for glory. You nod. But I knew your weight, it says. And I bent. Around the cross lie the remnants of offerings, chalices, gold, relics, bones of martyrs, all tarnished, all rejected. A voice echoes through the nav, deep, feminine, stone thick. You try to rise above us. A figure steps from the shadows. The architect, the woman who warned you the foundation was too soft. You silenced her, accused her of heresy, had her exiled. She never returned. Until now, her eyes are gone, her hands replaced with measuring sticks. I told you stone cannot hold lies, she says. You told me faith would anchor anything. She walks to the cross, caresses it. It purrs, a low, trembling sound. It refused you, she says. It knew the sky would not receive what the earth would not bear. You stand, I believed. You performed, she corrects. You shaped faith into theater and called the applause salvation. She lifts her arms. The cathedral shudders. The walls crumble in slow motion, revealing not sky, but more earth. Always earth. She looks at you. So tell me, Saint Will, you raise it now. The cross twitches. The ribs crack. You step back. It's not mine to raise, you whisper. She nods. That's the first honest stone you've laid. The ground beneath the cross splits. It begins to sink deeper, swallowed not in shame, but in mercy. The earth closes over it. No sound, no monument, just dirt, soft, forgiving. The architect vanishes. The candle in your hand burns steady. The air is still, for once, not because nothing breathes, but because everything is already You walk. Behind you, the cathedral falls in on itself like a sigh. Ahead, a narrow passage of roots and soil, lit by the memory of things that chose not to be remembered. The flower in your robe blooms once, then fades, and the earth is silent again. The saints who never spoke your name. The passage narrows until even breath becomes a burden. Roots coil like veins along the walls, pulsing, not with sap but with remembrance. The candlelight dims, as if cautious, as if it knows this part of your journey must not be fully seen. You crawl now. The robe tears. Your knees bruise. Your back scrapes the ceiling. And still, you move forward, until you fall, not downward, but inward, into a space that should not exist, a chamber of silence, circular bound in ivory and salt, the ossuary of saints. You stand, or try to. The bones surrounding you are not scattered, but arranged, sitting in thrones of themselves, robes of ash, crowns of thornless branches. Their skulls glow faintly, not with light, with memory. There are no inscriptions, no names, and yet you know each of them, not from scripture, but from absence. The ones never canonized, never painted, never sung, because they never asked to be. They earned nothing, demanded nothing, and for that, they became truth. You approach the first throne. A woman, her fingers still curled around a broken walking staff. A healer, you remember sending her away. She healed with plants, not prayers. You called it paganism. She died alone. The skull turned slight, not toward you, away. The second. A man with no jaw. His hands show rope burns. A martyr who never spoke because he never could. You called him incomplete, not fit for sainthood. He bled under your sermons. Now he watches you with sockets full of quiet. You move through the circle. Each figure reveals another lie you sanctified, another silence you baptized in gold. At the center, an emptied throne. You approach. The seat is warm, waiting, and above it, suspended mid-air, a scroll, sealed with wax the color of bone. You reach for it. It opens without touch. Inside, your name, not in ink, in scars. Every miracle etched as a wound. Every sermon cross-stitched with omissions. You read, line by line, and with each one your knees tremble, your spine bows, your chest burns. Why am I here? You ask aloud. The saints say nothing. They do not judge. They do not bless. They simply do not speak your name. That is the wound. Not exile, but absence. The kind that leaves no echo. You scream, not to defy. To be heard, a whisper returns. The ossuary walls begin to move, not collapse. Shift opening like ribs. And from the seams, thousands of tiny bones pour in. Teeth, fingers, fragments of lives never named. They form a staircase. Upward, toward light, not divine, natural, the first light you've seen since the beginning. They do not crack, they carry. One by one, the saints close their sockets. Not to banish you, but to let you go. The empty throne remains. Still warm. Still waiting, but not for you. The candle flickers, the flower crumbles, the scroll burns, and you rise, not to be seen, but to begin seeing. The testament that was never written, the bone staircase vanishes as soon as your foot leaves the final step, crumbling into dust that rises not with air but with silence. You emerge into a library, endless, no shelves, no corridors, only floating tomes, millions hovering in air thick with memory. Each book spins slowly, each bound in skin that does not breathe. You do not need to read the titles. There are none. This is the archive of the forgotten word, the place where every testimony never told is kept. The candle in your hand flares, the violet flame turns golden. It reveals a desk, a single chair, a quill made of spine, an inkwell filled with breath, and in front of it a book, yours, or what should have been. Blank pages untouched, binding stiff from disuse. You sit. The chair groans not from weight, but from recognition. The book opens to the first page. No title, just a line. He was believed. You stare at it. The ink fades. The line disappears. You pick up the quill. It resists, as if it knows your hand has never told the truth freely. You force it. Dip it in breath. The ink shimmers. You write. Not facts, not miracles, but fractures. The times you looked away. The sermon you stole. The martyr you misnamed to fit a story. The wounds you anointed instead of healing. The children you called blessed as they were buried. The miracles you designed with silence, with distance, with politics. The ink runs across the page like blood. The letters curl, cry. Each word opens a wound, not in your skin but in your image. The saints you claim to equal watch from above. Their shadows stretch long. They do not reach to help, but they stay. You keep writing. The candle melts into your hand. Your bones crack with every line. The robe peels away. Your skin follows, but you write. Page after page, until the book begins to fight back. It spits ink, screams in a voice you recognize your own, but not present, past, preaching, declaring yourself chosen, anointed, divine. You keep writing. Over the voice, over the lies, until the pages burn, not in fire, in light. They glow, then peel away. Behind them, new parchment, tender, waiting. A final page remains. Blank. You pause. The inkwell is empty. The breath is gone. You lean forward, bite your lip. Blood wells. You dip the quill. Write the last line. I am not forgiven, but I remember. The book closes. The desk disappears. The library shudders. Books scatter. Some vanish. Others burst into leaves, into feathers, into nothing. Your book remains. It floats, opens, reads itself aloud. Your voice, but softer, as if spoken by someone ready to begin again, not as a saint, but as a person. You watch it rise. It becomes ash, then mist, then sky. And from that sky, one drop falls onto your forehead. Warm, not baptism, not blessing. The candle extinguishes not with a hiss, with a sigh. And in the dark you see the door, made of parchment, held together by memory. On it, one phrase, carved deep. Do not rewrite, remember. You step through the room where no one prays aloud. The door of parchment dissolves as you pass through it, not into ash but into whisper. You step into a room, or perhaps a tomb. It has no walls, no ceiling, just a vast enclosure of stillness shaped like a thought held too long. Dozens of figures kneel, rows upon rows of bowed heads, hands clasped. But no one speaks. Not a chant, not a breath. Even the candle you no longer hold dares not flicker here. This is the place where faith breaks, not from doubt but from knowing too much. You walk between the figures. Some are robed, some naked, some wrapped in chains of light. Others bear no form but only outlines of longing. Each one bears a prayer on their lips, but they do not dare release it, because here words become flesh. Here a whispered plea manifests not as hope but as dead. You kneel, not in reverence. In mirror no one looks up. You try to speak. Your tongue curls, not from shame, from fear. What would happen if you asked, truly asked? The silence answers you would receive, and it would cost more than belief. In the center of the room stands a bell. No clapper, no rope, just an inverted crown of bronze, cracked with waiting. Beneath it an altar empty, but still stained. You recognize the blood. It was once yours, shed not in martyrdom, in retreat, the night you refused to anoint a dying boy because he had no relic, because his faith was not recognized. You buried that night, called it discretion, But the altar remembered. It always does. You approach. A woman kneels beside it. Her veil is threadbare, her fingers blistered. You knew her once. She prayed for her brother's release. You promised to intercede, then left. Her prayer remained unanswered. Her brother died chained to a mine. She never blamed you, but she never prayed aloud again. Now she watches you with closed eyes. Why do you want to speak now? She asks. You open your mouth. No sound. She smiles. Not everything forgiven must be voiced, but everything remembered must be held. She places the scroll in your hand. It is blank, not because it has no story, but because you have not yet listened long enough to hear it. The others won't speak, she says, but they will listen if you earn it. You walk back to the center. The bell waits. You kneel before it. Not to ring, to echo. You close your eyes. Inside, a memory stirs. Not of what you did, but of what was asked of you and denied. You speak, not aloud. Within you ask for nothing. You recount the child you touched out of habit, not blessing. The woman you assured while knowing she would die. The town you bypassed because its soil was not noble enough for your feet. The bell does not ring, but it warms. The altar does not bleed, but it breathes. Around you, one by one, the figures look up, not to judge, to witness. One of them opens his mouth. Nothing comes out, but the silence changes. It shifts, deepens, widens, until the room becomes not void. You realize this was never a chapel. It was a wound, and every figure within it is not praying but remembering who they prayed for and what was lost. You add your voice, not in sound, in stillness. The bell shivers. The altar closes its cracks. The scroll in your hand turns warm. You look down. One line has appeared. Silence is not absence. It is what remains after truth. You stand. The figures bow not to you, to themselves. You walk. The room does not vanish. It recedes, becomes memory. At the far edge, a stairwell formed of unanswered letters descends. The silence stays behind, but the stillness follows, because now it is part of you. The chore boy who buried the key, the stairwell formed of unanswered letters, creaks with every step. You do not know who wrote them. Perhaps you did. Promises to return, to listen, to protect, all unfulfilled. The air thickens as you descend. It no longer smells of ash or dust, but of wax and wet linen, as if something had been waiting far too long in ceremonial stillness. At the bottom is a room made of pews, hundreds, stacked into walls, floors, ceiling petrified wood, now part of the architecture. At its center, an empty choir pit, shaped like a well. Inside it, a boy, no older than 12, kneeling still. His robes are too large, his back is too straight. He holds a hymnal to his chest, but does not sing. He watches you enter. His eyes do not blink. He knows who you are. You know who he is. You do not remember his name, but you remember the day you walked past him, heard the hesitation in his voice, the pause before each note, the eyes that refused to rise to yours. You thought him odd, not gifted, not useful. You sent him to the lower choir. He disappeared, but he never left. I kept it, he says. His voice is high, flat, final. The key. You kneel across from him, because it didn't open freedom, it only opened you. You reach out. He flinches. The hymnal tightens in his grasp. You notice now it is not a book. It is a chest, flesh-bound, beating. The key is buried inside. You feel it. I wanted to leave, he says, but they told me staying was holy. His voice cracks. The pit around him deepens, becomes a throat, swallows light. They said my pain was a note in the Lord's song. Your spine shivers. You know those words. You spoke them. You cannot deny it. Will you take it? He asks. The key. You nod. Then you must sing. His demand is not a challenge. It is a price. You open your mouth, try to remember the hymns, but they taste of rot. So instead, you hum the only tune that still lives in you. A lullaby, not sacred, human, forgotten. One your mother sang before belief replaced warmth. The boy listens. Tears slip from his unblinking eyes. The chest trembles, opens inside. A key of bone, carved with the first letter of your name. You reach for it. The boy places his hand over yours. If you take it, he says, you will know what I felt. You accept. The key burns through your palm, threads itself into your veins. Memory floods in, not yours. His every silence, every unanswered look, every prayer spoken with eyes, not lips, every adult who turned away. You collapse, cry, not for him, for yourself, for needing his suffering to finally feel something again. It was never your door to lock, he says, but it is yours to open. You stand. The key pulses in your hand. The hymnal closes. The boy fades not, an echo in your blood. You climb from the pit. The pews shift, form an aisle. At its end a gate, black, seamless. Waiting, you walk. Behind you, the lullaby repeat sung now by many voices. Ahead, the final passage. The only place left untouched. Your beginning. The mirror that forgave nothing, the gate does not open. It vanishes. You step through absence, not threshold. And beyond it lies nothing. No chamber, no light, no walls. Only space shaped by recognition. And at its center, a mirror tall, black, not polished, not silver. It does not reflect light. It absorbs it. You'll walk toward it, slowly. Each step makes no sound. Not because the ground is soft, but because your presence is no longer guaranteed. You stand before it. Wait. Nothing changes. No image, no flicker. Touch it, it does not ripple, it seizes. Your skin adheres, your bones hum. And from within, something moves. Not behind the glass, within you. The mirror begins to show not what you are, but what watched you while you lived. Every time you blessed without belief. Every time you absolved without remorse. Every time you smiled while someone bled for your peace. The mirror speaks no words. It doesn't have to. It becomes all the faces you've forgotten. All the hands you never held. All the names you misused. All the silences you twisted into wisdom. You try to pull back, the mirror holds you. And then it begins to peel you. Not skin identity, the saint martyr, the teacher, the savior. Layer by layer, title by title, until only one shape remains. A child, barefoot, mute, standing alone in a room that once burned because you left a candle too close to prayer. This is your beginning, this is your end. The mirror shows the moment your lie was born. Not a sin, a choice. A choice to be seen, not to see. You scream. The mirror does not shatter. You beg, the mirror does not answer. Because it is not punishment. It is balanced. You fall, or feel as though you do, but the floor catches you. A hand yours, but aged, wrinkled, burned, and still reaching. And then you see yourself. Not crowned, not humbled. Just real. Just enough the key in your chest turns. Somewhere behind the reflection, a door unlocks. You step forward. The mirror lets go. Not with forgiveness. With permission. The space fills with wind. With song. With silence. You walk into it. Not away from guilt, but toward memory. Toward becoming something no prayer ever asked for. Accountable behind you, the mirror seals. Not to trap, to remember. Because someone must. And now, Jewel, you've reached the end. But perhaps, something has only just begun. This was never just a story. It was a mirror you were asked to walk through. A reflection of memory. Sin. Silent sand. The weight of voices we bury too soon. Maybe there was a line that made you pause. A shadow you thought you recognized. A silence that echoed louder than words. If something inside you stirred, even quietly, then let it stay, let it breathe, let it speak. You don't need to confess. You don't need to agree. You only need to remember. If you felt anything tonight, if you walked even one step with us, please like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who listens between the lines. The saints are gone, the voices remain, and sometimes the only salvation is being heard.